Hi, I'm Rich Miller. At Virtua, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by Partners for Health Foundation, Investors Bank, Virtua, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, NJM, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and more, with a focus on safety and financial stability. The Give Something Back Foundation, providing mentors and scholarships to help Pell Grant-eligible students go to college and graduate in 4 years, debt-free. And by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. And by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
Hi, Steve Adubato here, but more importantly, we welcome back our good friend Bill Lovett, who is Executive Director, New Jersey Alliance of YMCAs. We are big supporters of our local Montclair Y. By the way, let folks know real quick the history of the YMCAs and why they're so important.
Well, the Y was founded in this country over 150 years ago in Boston, and currently in New Jersey there are 37 YMCAs. 80% of New Jersey residents live within 3 miles of a Y. So we are throughout the state trying to provide service to families.
But we have you here today talking about trying to create a healthier environment, healthier culture, particularly for our kids. Why?
Well, it's interesting, Steve. If 10 or 15 years ago you and I were having a conversation about what was going on with kids' health, we probably would have focused more on parent responsibility. And what we've learned through research is that a lot of what's going on in our society has to do with the kind of environment that we're providing for families to raise kids. And that deals with access to healthy foods, access for physical activity, the kind of school environment that kids are exposed to, what's going on in childcare. So we really have tried to focus on making policy and environmental change in New Jersey.
What communities are most vulnerable?
Well,
and are they disproportionately urban?
Yeah, and the communities that are most vulnerable are communities like Camden or Newark or Trenton, where there's a real difficulty in getting access to healthy food. For example, in Camden, there's one supermarket for over 60,000 people.
Hold on, back up.
Yeah.
One supermarket.
Right.
60,000 people.
Right.
So how do they get access to it?
The food delivery system really is through corner stores. And so in Camden, I think there's like 70 to 100 corner stores. And so part of what we're trying to do is work with those corner stores to have healthy options for people, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables that they can purchase.
How do you do that? Explain it to folks.
So part of what we are able to do is we have a grant program that helps buy refrigeration equipment, and then we also help link the corner stores to produce providers, and then also help them figure out how to display and preserve the produce for sale.
What does that mean, display the produce? Why does all that matter?
Well, if you walk into a store and the produce looks old, it's in a corner, it's not attractive looking, then whether you're a kid or an adult, you're probably not going to buy it.
You know, Bill, you and I were having this conversation right before we went on the air. I said we were in the town of Montclair, and again, we love the Y, and they've been great for our kids and countless others. But I said with our children, who are still pretty young, we struggle with the conversations we have with them about healthier eating, a healthier lifestyle. Yeah. And you said, if we're struggling in a really comfortable environment, what about everybody else?
So much more difficult in many of our urban cities. And that's part of the reason why the incidence of childhood obesity is so much greater in communities of color and in urban communities.
So help us understand this. Say someone says, because you hear this a lot, if a kid is eating unhealthy for a consistent period of time, people say, oh, he or she will age out of it, or, it's just a phase or whatever else. I'm convinced that the patterns we set in these earlier ages about fruit and vegetables, et cetera, and instead of drinking a lot of juice or soda, more water, that those patterns, they don't stop when you're 21. Am I wrong about that?
You're totally right. And what's interesting is a few years ago, a lot of our time was being spent with grade school kids. And although that's very important, increasingly we're focusing on preschool age children, because what the research says is what parents and kids are doing at that age really starts to set the table for what happens after.
How do you have those conversations? And by the way, is it education?
Some of it is education. Some of it is being able to access the food that is healthy to purchase. Some of it, I think, we're spending a lot of time on this, is what happens in our child care centers around the state. Because if you think about it, child care centers really function as almost a front porch of many communities where parents are learning and interacting with each other. Everyone wants the right thing for their kids. They trust the staff to give them good advice. So we think the child care centers really have an important role to play in setting the tone and helping parents understand the importance.
You know what's so interesting, though, Bill? What about for parents themselves who are struggling with the question of being healthier themselves, eating healthier, living a healthier lifestyle? How much pressure is it to put on them who are trying to literally put food on the table, keep things going, particularly in these incredibly difficult economic times? And then we say, and it's your responsibility to have your kids be healthier. Is that too much to ask?
Well, it can be very challenging. You know, and if you think about it, the cost of buying a lot of very high caloric fast food often is much less expensive than buying the healthier food.
And do you think people make that choice to some extent?
Yes.
Based largely on economics?
Yes.
But the consequences are very real. Help folks understand the consequences.
Well, one of the things that we're seeing in this country is, you know, we used to talk about type 2 diabetes as an adult disease, and increasingly now it's become a kid's disease. And, you know, one of the difficult things I think we often look at is diabetes, when it begins, doesn't manifest itself with a lot of symptoms, but the consequences of diabetes down the road for adults as they get older is just devastating. Blindness, amputation, incredible pain. And so part of what I think we're really trying to help people understand is that how critical it is, the consequences that you may face. It's a little bit like smoking if you think about it. That, you know, same issue, that you don't see the immediate consequence, but down the road, you really are rolling the dice with potential disease.
And finally, the name of the program?
Well, we're really involved with a group called the New Jersey Healthy Communities Network, and we're working with...
The New Jersey Healthy Communities Network, go ahead.
Working with 43 communities around the state right now. So,
and that's funded by a major grant?
Number of major funders are at the table with that.
Well, we in public broadcasting want to continue to be helpful in getting the word out, helping to inform, educate, and we're not supposed to advocate, but who would be against this cause?
Well, we appreciate it.
Bill Lovett is Executive Director of the New Jersey Alliance of YMCAs, and you're welcome back anytime. It's a great organization.
Thanks.
More importantly, doing important work. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more Caucus New Jersey, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're here with John Galandak, who is the leader of the Commerce Industry Association. Yes, you are the CEO. Let me ask you this. Every year that we do this legislative dinner, the one-on-one legislative dinner the Commerce Industry Association has, I ask myself, will the issues change? So my question to you is, why is it that everyone's talking about the estate tax, and didn't we talk about that last year?
We talked about it last year. It hasn't gone away, and it remains one of the biggest challenges in New Jersey in terms of our competitiveness. We're one of two states, as you know, that have an estate and inheritance tax. Puts us at a competitive disadvantage.
Estate and the inheritance tax. Explain to folks who may not be able to follow the inside jargon, if you will, in the State House and the legislature, why both the estate tax and the inheritance tax is a problem.
Well, the estate tax is levied against the person's estate, so when a person passes away, that calculation is done on those total assets.
At $675,000, it kicks in.
The threshold that it kicks in at, and then the other is if anyone inherits some money, they get taxed as well. So it's in a sense double taxation. But the real reason that it's a bad idea is 48 other states don't do it. So when people think about where they're going to retire, this has to be an important consideration, and they choose other states to retire in. As a result, we lose other things. We lose some really great people. We lose some people who move their businesses before they retire. And we lose all the revenue that they would have spent here, whether it's buying a restaurant meal or a new automobile and paying that sales tax.
What are we proposing? What is the Commerce and Industry Association actually specifically proposing, John?
We are aligned with both Democrats and Republicans in a well-regarded proposal that would eliminate this over a period of years.
Eliminate the estate tax?
Yes, phase it out over 5 or 6 years. That way, the impact on the state revenues would be incrementally felt and be able to be absorbed over time. The trade-off would be, of course, you'd get increased revenue from sales tax that wouldn't exit the state.
The other issue that's going to wind up coming tonight, by the way, I'm honored every year to moderate, let's just say, a very spirited dialogue with the legislators here and the business leaders about the issues that matter to them. And one of the issues I know that's going to come up, and I'm going to ask John about this, is some of the mandates. One of the mandates being paid sick leave, and the other one, let's just say, is the movement that is led by Senate President Steve Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Vincent Prieto for the $15 an hour minimum wage. Take one at a time, 15 bucks.
Bad idea, because again, it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. We'd be one of just a couple states that mandate that. But number two, all this whole suite of mandates, if you will, in terms of labor law, labor regulation, kind of hamstrings employers. It doesn't allow them to compete. If it's mandated, it doesn't allow them to compete for the good employees by offering different benefits, by offering different salaries. If they're all mandated to offer the same amount, how do they compete?
But John, respectfully, on the $15 an hour minimum wage, what do you say to those who say New Jersey is such an expensive state, it's different than other states, it's more expensive than other states, so $15 an hour just is reasonable?
It is, and those people that will earn $15 were that to become the law would be better off. Who would be worse off is the person that's currently earning $11 and wouldn't have a job at $15. So what's not seen is the people that would actually be worse off as a result of losing their jobs.
So you're okay with raising the minimum wage, but not to $15 all at once?
I think it'll happen spontaneously. If you take a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Wendy's that are in that same arena, they will have to compete with higher wages if they want to get good people, and that's true of every single industry. Competition among businesses will raise the wage rate no matter what, and if the state has to get into this business at all, what they really should do is encourage some training programs so that people are more productive, their companies earn more money as a result of their talent and their contributions, and they will get raises.
By the way, you can hear the crowd coming in. Legislators are coming in. Business leaders are coming in. This is the Commerce and Industry Association legislative one-on-one dinner that is every June is done here at Nanina's in the park. It's a great event. It's spirited. It's candid. Democrats and Republicans come together and with business leaders, and they discuss all issues.
If I could add one thing, just overall, why do we do this? We do it because one of the joys of my job and the most important part is bringing good people together. Not just in business, but in business and government. If you sit down together over a meal or even without a meal and you have an honest dialogue, you're more likely to come to some agreement, some consensus, and you can work together. If you never talk, you're not likely to agree on anything.
The difference between this and what's going on in Washington, Congress.
I hope there's a big difference. I hope we can do more things in a positive way in New Jersey through events like this, by getting people to talk and to agree.
Or at least to respectfully disagree. Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by Randi Zuckerberg, founder and CEO of Zuckerberg Media, and the host of Complicated on Sirius XM Radio. It is an honor to have you here.
Thanks. Usually I'm the one doing the interviewing, so this is a fun change.
On the Sirius show?
Yes, I'm on Sirius XM on Wednesdays, business radio, and I like to bring on entrepreneurs doing interesting things in tech. But then the show's called Complicated, so we talk about the great uses of tech, and then we talk about kind of the complicated side of it.
How much do you like being on this side of it, asking, listening, following up, learning?
I love it. It's the best to interview someone. I feel I'm like a professional listener for a living. I get to spend time with the coolest people in the world for an hour every week and hear their stories.
But you know what's so interesting about that? I've often wondered, as I was reading about you, because I think this is the coolest job, right? But being someone with your reputation, with your success in business, are people sometimes intimidated by the fact that you've been so successful?
Oh my gosh, you're so nice to say that. I feel like I still have so much that I want to accomplish.
Join the club.
So hopefully we're all going to live another 100 years in order to accomplish everything. But, you know, I think I try to be just an approachable, regular person. I feel like in my line of work, on one side, I talk about all of the amazing, groundbreaking things happening in technology, but then I go home and I'm just an amateur mom.
Describe your family life.
I have 2 little boys.
Ages?
5 and almost 2. And I know that they are going to run circles around me in tech. No matter how much I know, no matter how many people bill me a tech expert or a social media expert, those boys are going to run circles around me.
Well,
And so I'm just like every other parent.
Let's talk about that, because I want to talk a little bit about some of the most common mistakes that women entrepreneurs make, which you've talked about, and they're very powerful and relevant for people watching and follow Randi and learn more. But your background, getting into this, could you give us I hate to call it the Reader's Digest or the PBS version of your Facebook experience?
Yeah, well, I started my career in marketing, in digital marketing at Ogilvy and Mather. It was a happy accident.
Little company?
Yeah, a little company. Happy accident that I randomly got staffed on interactive marketing, which was a brand new team at that time inside of Ogilvy. And so when my brother was starting his little company,
I'm sorry, his first name would be?
Mark. Actually, you might have heard of him as Randi Zuckerberg's brother. That's often how he's referred.
Yes, wears the hoodie sometimes?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And when he was starting his little company, the Facebook, he decided he needed someone who knew about interactive marketing. And it was because of that happy accident that I got staffed on that team at Ogilvy that I turned out to be such a great fit early on at Facebook. I originally thought I was going to go out to California for 6 months, a year tops. I was New York City snob. Like, life didn't exist outside of New York. 10 years later, public company, 2 children, it was still out in California, and just recently made the move back to New York City.
So Silicon Valley, New York City, do the comparison, do the math.
Night and day. I mean, on one hand, Silicon Valley is this incredible place, so intellectual. I mean, you go into any restaurant, any cafe, and you just feel the American dream is alive there, the electricity. On the other hand, though, it's a one-industry town. So you go into every cafe, someone has a laptop open, pitching an investor.
All tech?
All tech. Every conversation is the same, and your friends, your colleagues, it all kind of blends. Whereas New York City, on the other hand, you have this vibrant city where you're constantly meeting and interacting with people from all over the world, every industry. I could go for weeks without having a conversation about tech with folks in New York. You have to kind of seek out that tech community. So there were some things that were wonderful about being in that idealistic, let's disrupt the world, Silicon Valley, and there were some things I really missed.
So when you come back, your passions include entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And why disproportionately women in entrepreneurship? Because obviously technology as well, and being a family person, et cetera, but I'm sorry for interrupting, but explain that, women in entrepreneurship, and do you think it's different for those of us who are men who see ourselves as entrepreneurs?
I think the women in entrepreneurship was something I've come into over the years. You know, I spent a lot of time, Steve, being the only woman in the room in Silicon Valley.
Is that right?
It's just one of those sad truths of tech, because there are so few women graduating from computer science school programs. There's so few women getting hired into those companies, getting funded. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, and you find yourself in these really weird situations, like at giant tech conferences where the line for the men's room is circling around the building and the women's restroom is empty. And there were times that I would send off an email and I would show up at the meeting and people would be visibly disappointed because they thought Randi was a boy.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm. They thought Randi was a man that they were going to be meeting with, and you could see visible disappointment in their faces.
What about your
Randi
face?
was a woman. Well, I was like, sucker, I got the meeting.
No, you did. Did you really? Did you learn to anticipate
internal,
it?
that was the internal
You're right.
dialogue.
You didn't manifest that.
That's right, I did
because you're
not
more
manifest
under control.
that.
But you got used to that. Well, I'm not used to it, but you got used to, you knew you were going to get that.
So I got used to putting on that thicker skin of kind of toughening up, of being the woman in the room. But it really made me feel like, okay, I have a responsibility to encourage that next generation of female entrepreneurs and to mentor, handhold them, invest in them, give them that leg up so that a generation from now, I'm not the only woman in the room.
Right, so let's talk about that. On Oxygen, Quit Your Day Job is the gig you have there. Just finished the season?
Just finished season 1.
Designed to do what, the show?
Designed to inspire young women to think of themselves as entrepreneurs. These are the women that you see on this Oxygen show. They are not what you think of in your brain when you think of an entrepreneur
What
in
do you mean?
America. These are school teachers, single moms. We have all kinds of ethnic, racial, gender diversity on the show that I think in America's minds, when you think of what an entrepreneur or business person in America looks like, you have an idea in your head. And it's not any of these amazing women.
But
that you
what's so
see on the
interesting is
show.
you mentioned the 3 most common mistakes that entrepreneurs can wind up making. They don't know their numbers. They don't toot their own horn. And they choose a co-founder with the same skills. Break that down for us.
All right, so first of all, I think women walk into the room if they're asking for a raise, if they're negotiating, and they tend to use qualifiers like, I worked hard for this, I deserve this, like, I really want this. And that's great. That makes me want to give someone a hug. It doesn't make me want to open my checkbook
Was Sheryl
and
Sandberg
fund them.
right on this? Was Sandberg right on the leaning in?
Oh, well, definitely. I think women...
Because that's not leaning in.
What is it? Sorry.
That's not leaning in saying, well, I've worked hard. And
That's right. No, so what I say women have to do is they have to come in armed with data and statistics. They can't walk in saying, I worked hard, I deserve this, I earned this. They have to say, no, I have elevated our revenue by X percentage. Comparable salaries to exactly what I am doing are X. Come in armed with data.
Numbers.
Exactly, because no one can argue with numbers. I can argue with you walking in saying, I worked really hard and I want this.
And my opinion is maybe you could have worked harder.
That's right.
Can't argue the numbers.
That's right. Can't argue. So come in with stats and data, and that's something I pushed all of the women on the Oxygen show to walk into the room with.
What about tuning your own horn? What about that whole thing about, I coach people in my other life and do a lot of executive leadership coaching, and I found disproportionately that a fair number of women, when I say, why should you become a partner in this law firm or accounting firm, whatever it is, they don't want to talk about themselves. And we men very often talk too much about ourselves. Go ahead.
And that's a great example because when
Every guy in the control room, everyone in the studio is like, yeah, we do. What is that?
It's so funny. When guys come to pitch me about their startup, the first thing they do is walk in the room and tell me how awesome they are. Like, without a doubt, that's the first thing they do. And I'm like, okay, let's move past that to your startup. Women will come into the room, they'll immediately start talking about the company. They don't talk, I mean, it could be the most qualified, amazing, credentialed woman. She won't even talk about herself. So what I always tell women to do if they're uncomfortable bragging about themselves, get a peer group around you who will. For example, I'm part of this awesome group called Women in Tech in New York.
Women in Tech in New York City.
In New York City. And if there's a great article written about one of the women in the group, they'll email it to the group and say, I don't feel great posting this about myself. Will all of you post this about me?
That's a great idea.
So get a peer group that'll scream to the rooftops for you.
Love it. And the last part on that, because I want to talk about your book before I let you out of here. The last part is getting someone else to co-found who has the same skills. What's up with that?
So many women that I see, they pick a co-founder who's their best friend. And that's great. You know, I get it. You want to spend a lot of time with someone. You have to spend a lot of time with someone when you're starting a company. But what happens when you pick someone who has the same skill set as you is you step on each other's toes. Nothing gets done, and there's a big gap in your business. I find men are much better than this. They go into picking a co-founder in a very practical, tactical way. They say, what skills am I missing? Let me fill them with a co-founder. I'd love to see more women do that instead of getting into business with their best friend. Get into business with the kind of business partner they need.
Great advice. Children's book?
My children's book, Dot. I mentioned I'm a mom.
Look at that.
Yeah, Dot, yay. Dot is going to be a children's show in September. I'm so excited on Sprout.
Oh, what a great...
52 episodes, and I just love features a spunky girl who's just a tech badass.
A tech badass.
Yeah, I mean, when
modeled after any particular tech
you know,
badass?
I have 2 little boys. Dot's like the daughter that I never had. But what I love about Dot, she's unapologetically girly. She wears a pink frilly dress. But that girl, she flies drones. She builds robots. She prints stuff on 3D printers. She's like the role model.
Biggest takeaway for you, sorry for interrupting, biggest message for young girls to take away from the book is?
I think that they can do it all. You can be a girl, you can be a leader, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a coder.
Okay, I got to do this. My new book coming out is called, promoting.
Love
Lessons
it.
in Leadership. Number one lesson that you've learned about leadership so far in your great career is?
that it's all about passion. You have to wake up every morning feeling like there's nothing on earth that you'd rather be doing, because your employees, everyone who works for you, they see your passion. They also see if you don't have that passion.
You can't coach someone to the passion. They either have it or they don't, or
That's
what?
right. You can't coach passion. You can coach a lot of things in leaders, but you cannot coach passion.
Well, Randi Zuckerberg brought her passion today and a lot of great, valuable advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really fun.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by Partners for Health Foundation, Investors Bank, Virtua, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, NJM, the Give Something Back Foundation, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
At Virtua, we don't cut the quad tendon for knee replacement, so you don't have to cut anything you love to do. It's what we don't cut that counts. The Virtua Joint Replacement Institute. Visit GotMyLifeBack.org today.